Hey everybody, it's Chris Eads, Wootini over at GayGamer.net, here with another weekly video podcast. This one's much shorter than the last episode, I promise. There's no game playing to watch. This past week, I posted actually a couple of reviews on GayGamer.net. I don't know if you've visited the website to read them, or if maybe you just watched this. So if you just watched this, let me tell you about my reviews briefly. The first game that I reviewed was the latest Telltale Games adventure series game, which is Game of Thrones. It's interesting because it's actually based off the TV series, so they're using likenesses and the voices, they're using the actual actors doing the voices of their characters for this from the HBO series. But they're not doing a photorealistic look, they're going for this kind of interesting, like, oil painting look. Everything's got brush strokes, and it looks really cool. Although, as I mentioned in my review, they put this filter over the background to kind of blur it that is slightly distracting in places, I thought. But some of the likenesses are a little better than others, but it's interesting to play as these characters who are made up. I mean, apparently this family exists in, like, one of the appendixes or something of the books, like, so it is an actual thing that is, this family is mentioned, but they aren't actually in any of the books, and they're not going to be on the TV series. So Telltale has free reign to create this entire family and this whole backstory and all these characters and do with them what they will, and they can interact with the main characters like Cersei and, you know, Jon Snow and whatever. But these characters they can do with what they will, because obviously nothing's going to happen to Jon Snow because he has to be in the next season of the show. These people, anything can happen. So you get that whole Telltale Games thing of, oh god, who's going to die and what's going to happen and this is going to be really bad. Because if ever there was a property tailor-made for the Telltale Games adventure series of, here are your options, they are all terrible, pick the least bad one, it's Game of Thrones. Because the Game of Thrones is difficult. And there are no easy options, there's no good way to play it, and it's all going to be bad. So, just like with The Walking Dead, it's all going to be a bad outcome. Although, in theory, there shouldn't be that many dead people in this one, but it is Game of Thrones, and it does start off with quite a few dead people, so maybe they are going to have quite the body count. We'll see whose is bigger. Somebody should totally sit there and count. I don't have the time to do that, but I think it would be hilarious if somebody actually counted the number of characters killed in The Walking Dead versus the number of characters killed in Game of Thrones. I don't really count The Wolf Among Us in there because I feel like there weren't that many deaths in that one so much. Yeah, Game of Thrones is great. It's hard to review a Telltale game because it's all about the story, but you can't really talk too much about the story aside from just the basic general plot without spoiling things, because you don't want to spoil things, because that's half the fun of playing one of these games, is seeing what happens next. So if you're a fan of adventure games or Game of Thrones, you definitely want to play this one because it's really cool and it's really well written and well acted and everything. And it's on every platform imaginable. Except for, like, you know, the 3DS and the Vita, although it's probably going to be out for the Vita, because they do eventually put it out on the Vita, all their games. But PlayStations, Xboxes, PCs, Macs, pick one, play it, it's great. And as I said online, that if the ending of the first episode, if I had been wearing pearls, there would have been clutching. I was shocked. So, go play it, it's cool. The other game that I played this past week and reviewed on GayGamer.net, which you can read there, is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which, when I received my review copy, I was less than enthused about playing it because I don't like platform games, but I thought, well, he doesn't jump. I hate jumping. I'm so bad at timing my jumps, and I always fall to my death, so... But he can't jump, so I thought, okay. And it's a puzzle game, so maybe. But it's a puzzle platformer. But as it turns out, it's not a platforming puzzler, it's a puzzler platformer. You know what I mean. It's more of a puzzle game than a platformer. Because I suck at platformers, and I'm always falling to my death, and I'm always dying, but the only time I ran into any major problems with Captain Toad was there's like 2 or 3 levels where there's some like narrow platforms, or there's like, you know, lots of jumping that you have, there's like, not jumping because you can't jump obviously, but there's some movement that you have to do on these platforms, and you're suspended over midair, so you will fall to your death if you fail. And since I am really terrible at that sort of thing, you know, don't give me a burst of speed and then shoot me along really narrow platforms, because I'll go right off. I will. Over and over again. That was the only time I ran into any real trouble with that game and I got frustrated and started yelling at it, was when there were platforming elements like that. But like I said, that was only like a few times during the entire 70-odd levels, so, you know, it's fine. That wasn't a big deal to me. Of course, the problem is, though, is that if you fail a level enough times, they give you an invincibility mushroom so that you can just plow through it and not have to worry about the enemies or whatever. And I was like, no, I need like a Tanuki suit so that I can fly, because that's my problem. The enemies aren't the problem. It's the damn narrow platform and shooting me down at top speed. I can't navigate, I freak out, and I fall off. But that's just me, because my coordination and reflexes are terrible. But as a puzzle game, it's so much fun to like investigate each level and look around and try to find all the hidden nooks and crannies and get all the different treasures and get away with 100% completion. And if you have a Wii U and you're looking for something to play, when you're not smashing Smash Brothers, give this one a check this one out, because it's a lot of fun. And if not, put it on a Christmas list or something and get it later while you're still playing Smash Brothers. And then there's one other game that I played this week, because I had heard a lot about it over the years, whatever. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but it's been a long time since it came out, I think. And I've heard about it, and it became free for PlayStation Plus members on the PS3. So I decided to download it and see what everybody was talking about. And they were right. It is insane. BSC. It's Deadly Premonition. This is actually Deadly Premonition, the director's cut. I'm not really sure what changed for the director's cut. But this game is so weird. I don't know the origins of it, but it seems to me like some Japanese developers were like, you know that Twin Peaks show? It's really cool. We should do a video game that's like Twin Peaks, but a Japanese Twin Peaks, so it's all wrong and makes less sense than anything else. Like, it's, you know, a weird town in the northwest by the Canadian border. There's a girl is murdered, and an FBI agent who likes coffee comes in to investigate. But then it turns into Silent Hill, where you're walking around these areas covered in red vines, killing zombie ghost things. They keep saying, "I don't want to die," which is really off-putting, by the way. Of course, they only say that after you shot them dead, but too late. But, like, no one else seems to react to the zombie ghosts and the red vines, because they disappear and then the story continues. And I'm like, do you not see that? Or do you not react to me seeing it and shooting up a hospital? Because this is weird, and it makes no sense. And the animation is so awkward and stiff. It's kind of a low-budget looking game, but you've got this entire town and, like, these big buildings, like the hotel and the hospital. They're, like, very spacious, lots of hallways, but there's not a lot to do in them. And the premise is that it used to be a huge logging town, but now everyone's moved away, so that's why everything is so huge, but there's hardly anybody in it. It just makes it really boring, because to get to point A to point B, you've got to traverse all these hallways and wind around, and it's like, when you're not in the Silent Hill place shooting things, it's kind of boring to just walk around these big empty spaces. And the voice acting is, like, weird. It's like they gave them the script but didn't give them any context, so they didn't know how to act when they were saying their lines, because it's always just slightly off. And then, like, the controls on the driving are worse than Grand Theft Auto, and the sound of the motor is like nails on a chalkboard, and whenever he's walking, the click-click of his heels is just nails on a chalkboard again. It's like the sound effects are so wrong, and the graphics are sometimes really good, but then sometimes really awful, and it's weird. I was excited to find out you could play it in 3D, and I turned on the 3D for a while and played it on my 3D TV, but it wasn't really adding anything to it, and I was like, if I'm going to play this for this long, I don't really think I want to be wearing 3D glasses and giving myself a headache, so I turned it off. But, like, this game is so weird. Although, it's funny because it's like a good bad. It's like a bad movie that's so bad it's good. The game isn't unplayable, in which case, then I would stop playing. If it was stupid and unplayable and the controls sucked or whatever. But it's like, it's not that bad. It's not a good game, but it's slightly wrong. So, but it's a fascinating kind of wrong, where I think I might actually play through this whole thing just to find out if there is an ending to this story that might actually make sense. Because it's just so weird that I kind of want to find out if it ends up making sense at all. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be really pissed. So, come back in a few weeks to find out if I finished it or not. And come back next week to find out what else I want to talk about. And I will see you back here, same place, same time. Bye!